How's it going, Clippers fans, Clippers people, Clippers folks? It's me, William Updike, 1/3 of the hosting triumvirate here at Clips and Dip. If you don't know Clips and Dip, it's your favorite Clippers podcast, your new favorite Clippers podcast. We come at you multiple times a week with all the Clippers content. Joined as most times, honestly, by Charles Mockler and Adam Osland. Fellas, how's it going? We'll start with you, Chuck.
I'm feeling good. It's freezing in Los Angeles, but I have a feeling it's frigid. I have a feeling the Clippers are going to go on another win streak by the time we put out our next episode, which I'm very excited for. But I'm feeling pretty good. Cold toes aside, I'm doing fine. Adam, are you warm or are you okay?
The Clippers hot shooting keeping us warm with that 62% field goal percentage, highest on the season last night against the Suns.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm doing all right.
We're going to kick things off talking about that back-to-back Lakers versus Suns. One severely more disappointing than the other. We'll also take a look at the standings. Pretty interesting right now. I mean, we kind of had some expectations and some thoughts about where this team could be, where they should be coming into this season. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll preview the Clippers' upcoming games as we, trudge on towards March, which, if you're new to this show, is very important to Charles Mockler. But let's kick it off. Adam, where were you at after this loss to the Lakers? Let's start there. Let's get in, and then let's get into the good stuff.
As you know, I wasn't that surprised by it. I thought the Lakers would play well, and I think it's a bad matchup for the Clippers in a lot of ways. The Lakers aren't the same team with a lot of smaller guards having two guard Kawhi and Paul George like they were in recent years when there was this level of dominance from the Clippers, 11 straight victories. They've now lost to the Lakers twice this season. I don't think it's alarming. I don't think it's a red flag or anything to overreact too much about, but I do think they can be a bad matchup for them just because they have so much length defensively. I thought that going in, and the Clippers had their worst shooting game. Well, at least since I think November 8th, they shot under 40% from the field. They still
Would you call that matchup the lengthy boys versus the girthy boys?
Yeah, hot dog versus hamburger.
They were sub 40. Wow, I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was sub 40.
I had Justin Rousseau on pregame last night, and he brought up like shot profile based off of that where the Clippers should have shot, and they shot 8% below where they normally would hit those shots at. Mm-hmm. So they did have an off night, and it was outside of what the Lakers were doing too. It is bad. It's an advanced stat. I get it. But I still think, Kawhi Leonard had his first bad game in his last 15 after 14 straight of 60% shooting from the floor and 53% from the outside. He was due. It happened to come against the Los Angeles Lakers, who said a lot of glowing things about the Clippers and how well they had been playing post-game, by the way. And
Sorry to cut you off. Did you see the new report that came out about like how the Lakers regret how they handled the Russ trade? That came out today. I just saw the headline, but it was like,
what, did David McMenamin apologize or?
Literally, I think it might have been. Let me look it up. But yeah, it was like, just like the Lakers regret how they handled the situation, and you're like,
I regret posting anything that could be interpreted as Russ slander, even when I'm saying I love him and he's doing a great job off the bench, but that's not enough for some people.
I just thought that was funny. It's like, okay, guys, move on.
They heaped a lot of praise on Ivica Zubac's post game, and LeBron had that comment about it's Coach Lou's team. Right to say that too. Oh, yeah. That's been the biggest difference. He's putting the guys in the position to succeed and made that change to the starting lineup. Since then, Clippers have won 20 of 26 since December 1st, 15 of 18, 6 of the last 7 after beating Phoenix last night. But still, I don't like just how they line up against the Lakers team. And for people who think that, they would beat them in a 7-game series and it wouldn't be much trouble, and maybe the Lakers won't even make the playoffs and all these things. And I heard a lot of it last year too. Even if, yes, I think the Clippers would win that series, I think they are the better team. It's going to take a lot out of you playing this Lakers team. That's probably not a finished product yet, and they probably are going to go out and make a move at some point. They have assets too, and they can do that. But if you had to match up against them in a first-round series and we'll get more to the standings later on, but that's how it would look right now based upon how good the Clippers have been and the swoon the Lakers have been on ever since the in-season tournament.
Swoon.
I don't love that. I don't love that. And I've been saying this for a long time. There's two things that would worry me. One, they're going to have the home crowd in probably every game of that series, unfortunately. And two, the Lakers get calls. Like, what are we talking about here? You can go back over the last season ever since that LeBron James Boston incident, and the Lakers are something like a plus 500 in free throws attempted more of them attempted versus disparity versus opponent. That's a problem. And they still have LeBron and AD. Now, if there's injuries, we're talking about something else, but I'm just saying both teams fully healthy, it would be a knockdown, drag out fight. The Clippers still had a chance to win that game. Will's Power Ranger lineup came in. They were a +8 after they were down by 10. They had the game tied. It still took a miss from Norman Powell that rattled in and out for the Lakers to win that game. But I think there were some warning signs, including this, and I'll end with this here in my little spiel. But when we talk about James Harden and say, well, he's never been in a position like this before, where he's the third option or the third scoring option. So if you're worried about him in a playoff series, it's different now on this Clippers team with Kawhi and Paul George in front of him in the pecking order of shots. That's fair, but because he's the guy with the ball in his hands and they're generating offense off of him, it's not exactly him slotted into being the third most important guy in a playoff series. He's still extremely important, and the 5 turnovers he had against the Los Angeles Lakers where he didn't look like himself, that was a little bit, I'm not going to say eye-opening, but it was his worst game in a long time, and the Lakers played him well, and they generated those turnovers, and they need James Harden not just to shoot it well in a playoff series. He has to continue to be sound with the basketball. And I said this on the last show, but it's flown under the radar that the Clippers over the last 10, 15 games, the turnovers had been up. And they had been averaging almost 15 per game. So even while they were winning because of the margin of error and the talent disparity between them and their opponents, there still were some warning signs. There was a little bit of slippage offensively with too many turnovers, and it came back to hurt them in a big way against the Lakers in that game, where I think they had 8 of their 16 turnovers in the third quarter alone. So I think they're obviously the better team overall, and I would take them in a 7-game series. It would be a battle for Los Angeles still, and I'm interested to see how they come out when they play the Lakers later on this month.
Yeah, I was excited to see him bounce back so well because all the quote, like the play guys seemed pissed off after the game. Like Will, you and I were talking about this. Like, it's not often you see in the 2-1-3 era guys look not pissed off like at the media or anything like that, but just genuinely unsettled with how they performed that night. That was palpable after that Lakers game. They were upset and they wanted to bounce back immediately against the Suns, which they fully did. I don't know if we've seen the Clippers lose the first game of a back-to-back and then respond like they did like that in a really long time in the 2-1-3 era. Because they, it was close-ish at half, but when they decided to put it on the Suns, they absolutely, kind of imposed their will on the Phoenix Suns the other night. Ty Lue had the quote, I think after losing that game yesterday kind of woke us up. The way we played defensively, I thought was really good tonight, that second half especially. Will, what was your biggest takeaway from how the Clippers played against the Suns? Also, a lot of Suns fans in the building last night. Not ideal. Anyway, Will.
The biggest thing for me was I liked a lot of the combinations of the lineups. I think the Ty did a really good job minimizing the Harden Westbrook minutes on the floor. There was very minimal overlap between the two, which we know it hasn't been working. It's not to say that it never will, but thus far it hasn't. And in a game like that where, through 3.5 quarters, it was a fairly competitive game. You definitely needed that. So I like them messing around with those things. I love getting Zoo involved. Obviously, he has been so pivotal in this win streak. And Terrence had a great game as well too.
Yeah, Terrence hit, what was it? I mean, he's like 10 of his last 18
from outside.
From outside,
3 of 6 last night.
Yeah. Like, dude,
I think I called in the preview that he was gonna. I think he was my player of the game, and I said he would hit 3 threes.
You nailed it. Did you
You
have
had a great
insight?
call last night on Clips and Double Dip as well, Will, bringing up the Clippers staying big with Ivica Zubac when the Suns went small in the third.
I loved that.
And it was very ineffective.
It was so funny to see. It felt
Well,
like
Nurk got completely invalidated. He got played off the floor. Like, huge credit to Zoo for that, and huge credit for Zoo for being able to stay in those positions when they went small. Like, he was unfazed.
it was so funny. It felt like the Suns were like, "Oh yeah, well now we're gonna go small. Like, who's Zubac's gonna guard?" And then it was like, "Who's gonna guard Zubac? He's a foot taller than everyone else out there." Like, I guess if you want to go bucket for bucket, we can, but that doesn't help the other team when they're losing. Yeah, Nurk got he was bad.
Zoo is a monster, guys.
Yeah.
What he's done over the last 26 games with this new starting lineup, 13 and 10 on almost 70% shooting. And I saw it earlier today. I'm looking for it right now on the Lob the Jam, the podcast. I think it was Dr. Shapp that posted it. But Harden is the best pull-up three-point shooter on high volume at 44%. Ivica Zubac has the highest field goal percentage on good volume from 5 to 9 feet now at almost 65%. Those two
It shows
so well together.
The baby hook from Zoo was on full display last night against the Suns. I'm telling you, Zoo, he's talked about his confidence so much, and you can see it. It looks like Zoo is showing off a little bit, just showing what he can do offensively, which is like this cool, I guess, giant step that Zoo has taken.
Zoo haters in shambles, Harden haters in shambles, Terrence Mann haters in shambles. But I'm just so happy for Ivica Zubac to put it together. And I don't know if it's a chicken or the egg thing, but is he being more consistent because he's getting more consistent minutes over this stretch? Or is it just him coming into his own at the right time because he has this great pick and roll point guard and James Harden like he's never had before? Whatever it is, I just am really proud of the way he has played because he's been an unsung hero, one of the most reliable guys in the league for a while.
Yeah, he credited after the game Westbrook and Harden just said it was fun to play. They play basketball a fun way when he's on the floor. And he said that Harden rewards him. Like, he's never had a point guard who's really kind of like looked out for how kind of Zoo felt. Will, Adam, you brought up a good point. Like a 7-game series against the Lakers, that would be tense. That would be not enjoyable. Will, how would you feel about a 7-game series against the Phoenix Suns to open up the playoffs?
I would
timestamp this if you want also as well.
If the Suns look the way they do today, January 9th, I would feel very, very comfortable with that. I thought, and we didn't give him his flowers either, but Paul George was absolutely wonderful as well. I think he was 4 of 9 from 3, finished with like 25 points. They just don't have an answer. They don't have an answer for these guys. And Kawhi, had a solid game, but not like we were seeing pre the hip contusion. And I don't defensively, I don't know how they can stop the Clippers. I mean, they can try to like shoot you out of the gym, but I just don't think that your entire team is shooting 40% from 3 over a 7-game series. Like, and I think that's what it would take, as well as, great individual performances from Durant and Booker. And,
as the away team too, most likely.
Oh yeah, totally. And I didn't even mention Beal yet, but guards, especially smaller guards, like that's not a good playoff matchup for any guard against the Clippers. Like it hasn't been, and you can look at the data. So I would feel really, really good about that. The two things I think for the Suns is like, the depth is paper thin. Clippers, they've had their ups and downs, but I feel like all of their role players are hitting a stride right now. We talked about this like a week ago, but like if the playoffs started tomorrow, I would feel pretty confident with where we're at. I guess I would love to have Mason fully back, but I would feel really, really pretty comfortable with where we're at. Whereas the Suns, I think, have a lot more questions in terms of depth. And then outside of Nurkic, like just not having another center, I don't know how they're going to beat. I really don't know how they're going to beat almost any team in the West in a playoff series if those are the options, if it's Nurk or nothing.
Yeah, Bol torched the Clippers the first time we played them. Adam, how would you feel? I think they're going to figure it out, obviously, a little bit. But
I think they
6 games max.
Yeah, The Suns are going to win a couple of games just off of hot shooting and elite shooting talent and a bunch of guys who can score at all three levels with KD, Beal, and Booker. But they do feast and have a steady diet of mid-range jumpers. And we saw Ivica Zubac not playing in drop as much in the second half of that one. And Kawhi just take control. I know he didn't have a great game offensively, but a couple of big buckets in that fourth quarter, including that ridiculous fadeaway over two players off the spin move, I think between the legs as well. But to me, what he did defensively is what changed the game in the second half. He guarded Kevin Durant as he did in the first quarter, but he was much better in the third quarter. KD had 20 points at the half, had just 3 in the third quarter, and then Kawhi had 4 of his 5 steals in the fourth quarter, and I think 3 consecutive steals, also assisted in a way, deflected by Daniel Tice, who played really well in that fourth quarter after having a slow first half. But I just think it's a bad matchup for Phoenix because they don't have the horses to guard the Clippers, because the guys they have to have out there that are their offensive juggernauts, 2 of them are just too small in Beal and Devin Booker. Paul George, I think, went 3 of his first 4 makes over Devin Booker in that first quarter where he had 10 points.
Going right at Booker too. Like, he had no regard.
Yeah, he got picked on by Russ as soon as he came into the ball game. They don't have a team that has enough two-way players that you can keep on the floor. They're a little bit too one-dimensional. I think the Lakers have that somewhat the other way, where they have some really good defenders, but they aren't good enough offensively. But yeah, the Phoenix Suns are flawed right now. It's still only 6 games so far with their big 3 together, and they could still make a move. I never liked the move for Nurkic. I don't think he's a great defensive center. I know maybe it was untenable with DeAndre Ayton and the chemistry issues there, and how he busted, soured on the situation. But I always thought when they brought in Frank Vogel, it was to get the most out of DeAndre Ayton now. It was a clean slate, no more Monty Williams and how he's being used. Frank Vogel's a big man whisperer. Instead, they made the move, and I don't think they got enough back for him. But I still wouldn't like it in a first-round series because Phoenix has that much top-end talent. But I don't know what you would like in a first-round series in this Western Conference right now. There aren't a lot of teams that feel like, okay, they can easily win this in 4 or 5 games if the Clippers are a top 3 or 4 seed, whoever they're taking on the bottom half. And you're not going to find out till later on because of the not in-season tournament, but because of the play-in.
Yeah.
So
5 games is the new sweep. Winning in 5 is the new sweep. It is so hard to sweep teams. Like, it's so hard to sweep teams.
Unless you're Denver against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. But
very true. That's a great segue. We can talk about the league in general. We're all feeling great after the Suns win. We're talking standings. Let's start micro. Let's start division. As someone famously once said, not very long ago, the Clippers are the worst team in the Pacific Division. But as of halfway through the season, the Clippers are 1.5 games ahead of the Kings, 4.5 games ahead of the Suns, 5.5 ahead of the Lakers, and 6 ahead of the Warriors. I'll tell you what, to be honest, someone who has a lot of division pride, not the best year for the Pac-Div as a whole right now, but I'm not too worried about that considering the Clippers are on top. Do we think the Clippers will finally get to raise a division banner this year?
Don't care.
Look, are you going to get a tattoo of the division banner if they win the division?
Have to. You got it. It's the only play that matters.
What were the division or California championship shirts they put out when the Warriors were taking terrible on the Lakers?
Let me find it.
I don't have as much Pac-Div pride. I prefer the Pac-Div to be down so the Clippers could have an easier road and get more victories to be a top 3 seed. But I understand where you're coming from, of course.
It's all wins,
It's just, as a Kings fan growing up, Pacific Division banner doesn't do much for me. I've seen those.
You think it would?
Raised before.
All right, let's get macro with it. If we want to screen share, we got a lot of YouTube comments demanding more screen sharing of the standings. Just saying. I'm gonna go ahead and share it. I was
Do it.
trying to find that Lakers shirt, but I can't. So looking at the standings right here, let's bring it up on the thing. Boom, boom. Oh, sorry, Will. Do you want to click it? I clicked it. Clippers are sitting in what I think I like to call the death zone. They're only a game and a half out of the Nuggets. Or excuse me, not a game and a half of the Nuggets. Oh, they are. Weird. This is wonky as hell. Thanks, Google. But if you look at 4, 5, 6, or 5, 6, and 7, that is where it kind of becomes a hellscape. I think. I think the Clippers can separate, though. I think they have a chance, like I said, maybe start a win streak here before our next episode after these 2 upcoming games. But I would love to avoid this quagmire that is 5, 6, 7.
They need to. They need to be a top 3 seed. I'm not going to pivot away from that. I've been saying it for years. Only team that has won that has not been a top 3 seed is the 95 Houston Rockets the last 40 seasons. It's not going to be easy to crack that because Denver, OKC, and the Timberwolves are all ahead of them. They'll see the Timberwolves on Sunday. But they have an opportunity now where I certainly thought when they lost 6 in a row, that might have sunk them from getting a top 3 seed. But top 3 seed back on the menu, boys.
Rod thought that too, I think. Will, what do you?
I'm in great company.
Will, what are you feeling when you look at the standings right now? Halfway through, we're sitting at the 4. Not bad.
Not bad.
I
still think looking at it though right now, it still seems pretty difficult. Like, who are you overtaking? Like, who do you think is realistically going to slip and stay there for the rest of the season? Minnesota and OKC are neck and neck. Nuggets are right there. Who do you bump out? Who do you think you can bump out realistically? That is, I guess, like my only concern. The Kings are a game and a half on our heels. Doesn't really concern me. 4 or 5 against the Kings doesn't necessarily excite me. I think it's a good matchup for the Clippers, but it doesn't necessarily excite me for that to be your first round matchup.
If I had to pick the 2 teams that I think are going to slip, I think it's Timberwolves and Thunder. And I think because of youth, I would have to maybe guess the Thunder. Just can't figure out something, but it's not like I expect them to slip. You know what I mean? But if I'm not, I can't really bet against the Nuggets yet as a Clippers fan or anyone who's watched them play. But I think I'd have to put the Thunder in the maybe get dropped down, still say a top 4 or something seed.
When we talked about the Western Conference and you asked the question, who scares you the most about 3 weeks ago, I brought up the OKC Thunder.
Yeah.
And I'm still there with it because I was just looking at, sorry.
Is that the Power Rangers sword?
What's that, Norm? Okay, yeah. Keep shooting 60% in fourth quarters.
That's your line to Norm. If you're only listening to this pod and you want to see what we were just talking about, which was Adam's Power Rangers sword.
It's my paperweight for my desk, I guess.
Check it out. YouTube.com/@ClippersPodcast. But continue about the Thunder.
So out of the 3 teams that are ahead of the Clippers in the standings right now, according to Tankathon, remaining strength of schedule, only the Denver Nuggets have a tougher schedule than the Clippers remaining. They're at 14. The Clippers are at 16, but Minnesota's at 28, and the OKC Thunder are at 21 when it comes to toughest schedules left. And OKC can still go make a move, guys. If they want Siakam, they can get Siakam. Like, if they want Markkanen, they can get Markkanen. That is a problem, and they have a ridiculous amount of poise late in games. They show up. They don't look like a young team to me. That is,
it is halfway through the season. You are right. It's not like they've really shown any the youth flaw.
I think they're a more complete team than the Sacramento Kings were last season when they ended up being the 3 seed, I believe. I just do. And they had a ton of good health, but SGA, he's better, I think, than De'Aaron Fox. And Chet Holmgren, with the way he has played in his rookie season, that's a great option. They have a ton of depth. They may trade some of it in. they could be a juggernaut. It's between them, the Denver Nuggets. I haven't seen enough of the Minnesota Timberwolves, but of the top two teams in the West that scare me the most, Denver's obvious, but I think OKC, I don't know, man. For years, they have the loudest crowd in the NBA. If you have to go there and play on the road in OKC, that's going to be a problem.
It's that pregame prayer. It gets everyone so fired up down there in OKC.
Fire and brimstone.
I would love it'd be fantastic to face OKC in the Western Conference Finals and beat them. That would be good for the Paul George trade narrative that people don't think was a good trade. That'd be a fun time.
I mean, is worst case scenario losing to OKC in the playoffs or losing to the Lakers in the playoffs? What would be worse?
To the Lakers by a mile, because that team is getting bounced the next round. If you lose to the Thunder, you probably lose to like a team that might win the championship as of now.
That's the team you traded with. You can't lose that series. I'm already thinking about how would they match up against them? Who do they throw at SGA? To me, that's a situation where you might need Russell Westbrook in that defense against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, point of attack wise.
I get made fun of for looking at March. Adam's doing playoff matchups right now with the
Thunder. We're in 2024 now, Chuck. You were worried about March back in 2023 in July.
2019, I was worried about March 2024. All right, coming up, we're going to talk the Clippers play the Raptors tomorrow, and then the shockingly, incredibly shorthanded Grizzlies after the Ja news and then Jaren Jackson situation. But first, we have some ads coming up. If those have been too loud for you, you can go ahead and turn it down. Some people have complained about that. We're going to talk Clippers, Raptors, and Clippers, Grizzlies coming up. Ads in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in Clips and Dips, Season 2, Episode 38. I'm Adam Oslin. We got Chuck Mockler. We got Will Updike. A good Clips and Double Dip with Big Will last night on AM 570 LA Sports. If you missed it, we pull that segment. We upload it also on the Clips and Dip podcast link. Still to come in the show, we got a little bit of rando stuff for you. We'll talk a little bit more about the Powell Rangers and if they're going mainstream yet, that nickname that Will coined for the Clippers death lineup, which did well. Again, was a +1 in just 1 minute against the Phoenix Suns in the second quarter. That's 36? All they needed. Per 36, yeah. They're destroying them. But let's get into some of the upcoming matchups here, including the Clippers' next game against the Raptors coming up tomorrow. Sloppy seconds after the Lakers take on the Toronto Raptors. New look Toronto Raptors tonight at Crypto.com Arena after they made the trade for Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. Chuck, I know you've done a little bit of digging on this Toronto Raptors team, which is kind of been in no man's land in what direction they were moving towards with a rebuild or restart or reload. And now they have gotten a little bit younger, I guess, or they've gotten 2 players for 1 at least. So a little bit more depth for OG Anunoby. But this is a team that I guess is going to lean into more offense because that's kind of where they have struggled over the last season. And really since Kawhi Leonard has left them. It just hasn't looked the same consistently offensively from the Toronto Raptors, but they still have Siakam. They still have talent there, and I guess a little bit of a culture left over from that 2019 championship.
Yes, Kawhi gave them a lot of things in Toronto. So no Jakob Poeltl in this one, which is quasi-big. The Raptors are they're perfectly in the middle. They're 17th offensive rating. They're 17th defensive rating. 19th in net rating. So they're just like a perfectly below average team, kind of like every metric wise. Since that trade, they're 3-1. They beat the Warriors, Grizzlies, and Cavs, plus 4.7 net rating, 3rd highest scoring team in the NBA over this recent stretch. But Will, I had a note on here that I think if the Clippers can shut down Siakam, and by shut down, below the season averages for points, let's call it that. It's hard for me to find, another path for the Raptors to get a win in this one, just with how the Clippers are playing. Siakam is averaging 29 and 9 over the last 3 games against the Clippers, which is bad. But I'm just not seeing a lot of avenues where the Clippers don't, turning the ball over, things like that, to try and let this team into it.
Yeah, I mean, this Raptors team is in a really interesting place to me. They're it's reminiscent to me a little bit of, a less good Trailblazers, kind of like where they were at for a while, where it's like this, where is this really going?
What
And
are you
especially
doing
after they traded McCollum, it was kind of like that's what the Raptors kind of are to me right now after like the OG trade. They have some interesting pieces. I mean, like RJ Barrett could make something happen. I mean, like I don't think he's the guy right now. Maybe he will be empowered in that offense, but right now I don't think he's the guy to really take the reins. I don't think with someone like Kawhi or even Paul George on him, he could go off in a significant enough way to like take a game over from the Clippers. And no Pirtle, I think, is really, really interesting. That trade still baffles me. But
you seem so confused by the Raptors. It's so great. Like,
yeah,
it
but
is
no,
like fair. Like,
yeah, and I mean, I think Emmanuel quickly is interesting. 6-man of the year candidate. He could come and provide a spark. He could maybe punish. He could punish this team especially if we have like two guards or something. I think it's definitely possible. The two guards that I'm talking about, not just any combination of two guards. But yeah, I don't see a lot of avenues. But then again, I mean, if the Clippers are viewing this matchup the same way I am, that just spells double trouble.
well, and they're starting quickly. So they're already in the spot where they're like starting quickly. Schroeder off the bench. Gary Trent Jr. can get hot. Adam, how do you feel?
They leaned into offense definitely when you trade OG away, and that was an area they were struggling. They're the fourth best offense over the last 4 games since the trade, and they just blew out Golden State up in San Francisco. 133 is what they put on them in the ball game to 118, and RJ Barrett had 37, so his best game so far. Siakam was 16. This is a team that's shooting also 41% from 3 since the move. So you can't let them get hot, but even if they did get into a shootout with the Los Angeles Clippers, you wouldn't feel that bad about it as they've been a bottom 10 defense since making the trade. So the Clippers definitely have a lot of paths to victory against this Toronto Raptors team, especially because they'll be on the second night of a back-to-back. I expect the Lakers to play hard against them tonight, and that could be a competitive ball game. But it's one the Clippers, they just need to win. If we're talking about getting into the top 3 in the West, this is a game you have to win. Friday is another one you have to win.
Yeah, the thing that I get a little, maybe just something to watch for in this game for people is they are a good offensive rebounding team. The Raptors have a pretty good, they're top 10 in total offensive rebounds per game and offensive rebound percentage. So that's obviously
but how many of those games were they battling for boards against Zoo?
Right. Well, very good
how
point.
Many?
I think none. I don't think we.
Where do they rank in games against Zoo?
Yeah. What's their record against? What's every player on the Raptors' record against Zoo? Other than Siakam, who I'm assuming we're gonna throw some multiple looks at and whatnot. Who are we about? Who do we want to see go off for the Clippers? I feel like everyone's playing so well. It's kind of hard to be like, this guy would be nice to bounce back. Team Terrence is crushing it from deep right now. It's just normal to watch him make multiple threes.
I feel like we keep saying it, but I'm ready for like a Kawhi offensive explosion with the two-way play like we saw versus the Suns.
Like 30, like plus 35.
Yeah, I thought that I think it was like after the second steal that he was gonna completely put the game away. Which I mean,
it was in the air.
More or less he did. More or less he did. I just meant like offensively as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, he hasn't had more than 19 points his last 3 games. Some blowouts in there, but when he first came back from the hip injury, had 24 against Miami, had 30 in Phoenix. I wouldn't mind seeing that, but I need to go elsewhere, I suppose. So I'll go with a guy who only took 8 shots. He made the most of them and had 15 points in the second quarter alone last night. But James Harden, aside from the 10 assists that he had to just 3 turnovers, would like to see him get 20-plus points in this ball game. God, he had 19 on just 8 days.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It honestly could not be looking any better right now with the bearded Wonder out there in a Clippers uniform with the way he has played. It's been phenomenal.
It's been good. Yeah, I guess I just kind of want to keep seeing Terrence have this ascension, this getting it back into his groove and getting the confidence, because we talk about the confidence with Zoo. and it's awesome to see. If Terrence can get feeling, I'm not saying that he's like shook or anything like that, but if he can get to where Zoo is, this plus confidence, this feeling so comfortable and making good decisions and, just all of these things coalescing, it feels like we're going towards that. The starting lineup will be better than the Power Rangers lineup if Terrence is able to get into this same level that Zoo's at, I think.
Are you going to take that smoke, Will?
It's not disrespectful.
I got another one.
Okay. Fire away.
Mason Plumlee. And by ascension, I just mean I would like to see Mason Plumlee play
real minutes.
Maybe a couple of minutes non-garbage time.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Give him 2 minutes.
Work him in. 2 minutes.
Guys,
2 minutes. I understand. You add 2 minutes a week. By the playoffs, he's up to 36.
He's playing 48 pretty soon.
I thought he was needed against the Lakers. Daniel Tice against the Phoenix Suns makes more sense to me. But against the Lakers, you just need a bigger body. He's the better rebounder. He's the better finisher. And I want to see him in the pick and roll with James Harden. Last season with the Clippers, I heard this from Dr. Schaap earlier. As a roller, Mason Plumlee was something like 1.5 per possession as a roller. Daniel Tice with the Clippers has been about 1.1. That's still good, but I feel like we're forgetting about this whole other dimension to the Clippers and a guy that was such a big pickup for them last season in Mason Plumlee. It's not like I want to see Daniel Tice completely out of the rotation or anything like that. He has earned minutes, but I think it should be more matchup dependent right now. If Mason Plumlee is fully back to being 100%.
We're not even at the point. We're not even at the point where it's one or the other right now. I don't think that Mason is physically there. That's why all I'm saying is how about a couple of non-garbage time minutes? Can we assess that much? I just want to see that much of an assessment. But I agree with you. I think that Tice, is very interesting matchup dependent wise. I love that he's on this roster, especially if, in a playoff run. I think that having that extra versatility, that extra guy is great. But right now, I don't think that we're anywhere near the conversation of okay, where does Tice fit in to the rotation? Right now, Tice is the backup center. That's the way it's going to be until Plumlee is back at 100%. Let's ease him in. Let's cradle him gently in to some regular
into his minutes.
into some regular second string minutes,
and then hand it off to Russell Westbrook like Paul George did with the baby recently. Since Chuck took shots at the Power Rangers, I just want to go to the starting lineup here.
Someone said on the live that you like to sow discord, and they might have been correct because I did not take shots at the Power Rangers.
People like. Well, can I give you the starting lineup data for a second with Terrence Mann here? Because it is unreal. And to your point, Chuck, they might be able to overtake the Power Rangers if he really gets the shot going. So far this season, in 20 games played with James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac, and Terrence Mann in the starting lineup, their offensive rating is 125. Their defensive rating is 108. That's a plus 17.5 net rating. But to dumb it down a little bit, field goal percentage-wise, 53% from the field in 301 minutes and 43% from three. And that is including Terrence Mann being in that shooting funk for so long where he just pulled out of it going 10 of 18. And one more stat for you, going back to last season, Clippers are 31-10 in the last 41 games that Terrence Mann has started for this ball club. Is that a coincidence? A half a season worth of games with him as the starter, and they're 76% of those games they have won. It's impressive.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. So we're feeling good about the Raptors. Will and I were at Staples yesterday when everyone got the jaw news, which was kind of surreal for those of you who missed it. Ja Morant, subluxation, that'll get you. He's having surgery. He's done for the year. Memphis fans confused at the timeline of all of this, which I think I share their confusion. There was a quote, Taylor Jenkins today described the Grizzlies as gutted by the news that Ja Morant needs surgery. Morant's with the team. They're hoping that he can travel with the Grizzlies after his surgery. He's not going to be able to practice or play, which is big loss for them. But another big loss is the Triple J is out versus I believe their next game. So they might be down. I mean, their two best players or one. I mean, one of them's not going to be healthy. So is this a trap game? We lost to him without Ja Morant. Is this a trap game? If those two guys, I mean, one of them's not there, but this feels like another thing where I'm having a hard time seeing the Clippers lose this game, respectfully.
Yeah.
This is an area where I mean, this team where they're at right now, you know, we keep talking about, we hope that this isn't even the final form yet. And I do believe that dropping either one of these games and look, like, things happen, you know, you can add like a bad shooting night. Like I'm willing to look at some context, but you know, if you're looking to get a top 3 seed, like we think they need to do to be a serious championship contender, these are the kind of games that you really cannot afford to drop. You just can't. And obviously you don't want to come in overly confident, but you can't pencil in a win, I guess, against anybody in this league. But I mean,
take care of business.
If you were to, it'd probably be the Memphis Grizzlies right now. I mean, if it's not the Pistons or somebody. So yeah, these are just these would be a little bit inexcusable losses for me.
They got to make up for that loss. Wasn't it at home? Yes, to Bismack Biyombo and the Memphis Grizzlies earlier this season, where he was getting where he wanted to. Now, they didn't play Big Zoo, I don't think, down the stretch of that one. Wasn't a made man yet. But, yeah, you have to win these next two because Minnesota's coming up in Minnesota on Sunday. Far from a guarantee. Best team in the West right now. First time Clippers will see them. And you might have to win in convincing fashion. I don't know. You can't give a team like Memphis. They're a good home team. They always have been. Grit and grind team. Whoop that trick, whatever they say from the Hustle and Flow.
That is exactly what they say.
Yeah, the chant that they do. They're going to try to rally around this injury and try to find wins here and there and be, you know, a pesky team.
They're up 20 on the Mavs right now.
Yeah. They're not just going to give in to this season because of who they have been culture-wise for years now. And if Ja Morant is traveling with them, that kind of speaks to it also, just cheerleading off the bench then. So don't take them lightly, but play well, lock in, execute.
Break the paint.
I forgot about the won't that trick thing. The Grizzlies are definitely going to lose. That's loser behavior. Hustle and Flow is a terrible movie.
Damn. Shots fired at Hustle and Flow. All right,
movie.
Player of the game picks for Memphis. I'm going first on this one because I don't know. I'm going. We already said Plum for that last one. I'm going Amir. I think Amir is going to have a big impact in that game against the Grizzlies. Maybe he'll hit a little weird patch in the game. Amir's going to come in, hit a quick 3, make a defensive play. It'll be a good Amir game. I
had Amir last night. I'm not sorry about it. He played well.
No one wants you to be sorry about it.
And I hope I'm able to pick this player. Russ stands. Can I pick Russell Westbrook back in Memphis after the game he had last season? Because I think on a road trip like this, even though they got some days off in between, Russell Westbrook could be very, very valuable. And if you want to talk about keeping that energy up and keeping that focus up and that intensity, I think Russ can certainly help in those areas. So I'm going with Russell Westbrook against Memphis.
Will?
Zoo. I think Zoo's going to have a huge game.
Hell yeah. I think that's a pretty safe call. So we're feeling good about a win streak starting maybe before the next episode. The next full episode. Because we'll have some double dips. But they're starting another streak, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
This has to be the most like winning streaks. You know, we're calling a winning streak 3. I think that's fair. The Clippers are up to 3 different winning streaks now of at least 3 games, right? If they get past these 2 teams, every time it stops, it just starts again. It's fantastic to see. It's a good time to be a Clippers fan. Coming up, we're going to be talking a bunch of random stuff. We're going to be just taking even a further look ahead. Adam maybe heard a nickname that Will thought of on Podcast P. We're going to talk some Prosecco, and then we got to break down the YouTube contest one more time. Coming up, a bunch of random stuff. The ads have been loud for some people, so if that's been the case for you, go ahead and turn it down. Random stuff in 3, 2, 1. What is going on? We are back here on Clips and Dip. If you're listening, thank you so much for listening. Please leave a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening. If you're watching, we appreciate you. As Will used to say on our old show that we don't mention anymore, per Will. But tell your friends to subscribe to the YouTube. It's at Clippers Podcast. We're just talking a bunch of random stuff. Adam, you alluded to it a little bit. We got these games against the Timberwolves and Thunder after these two maybe not as intense games. I'm really excited for the stretch of play from the Clippers. I think we get to see, we know this team is very good. We know they can be very good. We're going to see kind of, this is a what are you made of stretch. One of these teams is going to be on the back end of a back-to-back. I think the Thunder are going to be. But this is a really, I'm really excited for these two games just to see what we really have in this Clips team.
I think the bounce back, what we saw last night, illusions, Michael. I think that was a kind of what are you made of? How do you respond after a loss like that? We saw it earlier when they lost that Friday night game to the Pelicans, and then the very next night at Crypto, they held the Dallas Mavericks to 88 points. There have been signs that this Clippers team has a more intense laser focus this season. We've seen it a lot. They have backed up the regular season. They have to get back to respecting it talk for the most part. These next two games, vital because Minnesota is coming up on Sunday. But I think it's the best stretch in franchise history, winning 20 of 26 since the new starting lineup. In the fashion they have, level of competition-wise, when you put all the context into it and stir it up, I think it's better than the 17 straight they won in 2012 and 2013. And what you were talking about there before the break, or just talking about how confident you can be about the Clippers showing up for these games against lesser competition and having that mindset of these are very winnable games and they can get right back into a winning streak. I don't know if we felt that confident in past years like we do right now with this Clippers team, because they can just overwhelm you with talent some nights, even if they're not playing their best basketball.
That's a good call. Will, how are you feeling if we split these two games?
Terrible. What?
No, against the Thunder and the Timberwolves.
Terrible. Gotta win them both.
I mean, I'd love to win them both, but you're gonna feel terrible if they split.
It's over.
I'm fine if they split the games. If they split these games, what are you gonna do?
Switched. It's all messed up.
I know. I'm trying to fix it right now.
It is over.
It's over.
All right. If we split against the two best teams in the Western Conference, Will Updike is saying it's over.
You gotta surpass one of those three teams.
I know, but if we split
head-to-head record matters at some point. It could matter.
I know, but a split's not crazy. I'm excited for those games. We're going to be previewing those.
Tell Tyrese Halliburton the split's not crazy.
If you could only get
what the hell?
If you can't split, that's what I'm saying. You can't split.
We hope Tyrese Halliburton is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That was no shade at Tyrese.
Halliburton Hive coming. If you can only get one of the next or those two games between two top teams in the West, who would you take your pick of getting the victory against between OKC and Minnesota?
It'd be the Timberwolves for me.
Interesting.
I'm going
OKC. I mean, like, very good team. I still respect them. I think we're all kind of on the same page that, like, is this OKC team going to be the OKC team that's in the playoffs? Because, I mean,
I'm not on that page with you guys.
It definitely could go.
It
definitely could go either way. But with the season that they're having, I just don't see why you wouldn't use some assets to make a move. And if that's the case, I'd rather beat the Timberwolves, because the Timberwolves are right now, they're going to be in the playoffs. And I think that those reps are important.
I'm taking the Thunder just strictly for this regular season one, because I want to see Shea get locked up by our defense. I just selfishly, I would like to see that happen. And it would be cool to get a win when that happened. But Will's reasoning makes a lot more sense in the actual long run for the Clippers.
It's a tough call. I see it Will's way. The only reason I'll say OKC is because they already have lost to them, and it was a game without Kawhi Leonard on the road, and they lost bad. And I do want to see what they can do at full strength against OKC and give us a little bit of a glimpse of that, how they could try to bottle up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because nobody's really doing it. And with his quick first step and the mid-range game and the array of shots that he has now, I'm not sure how you do it. And things can fall apart from there if you let him consistently get by you and you're not taking up that challenge. And look, even if you do, he's just so fast now and he's so much in control. I am very curious to see how the Clippers do at full strength against OKC, hopefully at full strength also.
Hell yeah, it's going to be some good basketball. Next on the docket, Adam, did the Powell Rangers get mentioned on Podcast P?
Or no, I got to take the L there. I listened to it multiple times. The first time when I texted you guys and I was all excited, I was like, they mentioned the Power Rangers on Podcast P. He just said Power Rangers and was comparing, coincidentally, I guess, them getting it together after losing 5 in a row to the Power Rangers getting beat up early in the episode and then coming back and then morphing and then having the Zords and then pulling it out eventually. So that was the analogy and metaphor that Paul George was using. But it's going to happen. The word is getting out.
The word's getting out. There may be a shirt coming. Eric Bui said on the last live stream in the comments that there's a Power Rangers shirt possibly happening. Will, this one's for you. Have you tried James Harden's Prosecco yet? If not, should we go to his tasting event on the 25th?
I have not tried it, but yes, we should go.
Tasting event seems fun. If James Harden is there, why not? We could try and dress like James and be told that we were not allowed at the function, I think is what would probably happen. All right, last thing. We had the YouTube contest winner from last time we did the episode. Adam, has Luca gotten their shirt sent out yet or no? Have we gotten the padded mailer in the mail?
I haven't sent it out yet. I will later this week. And even if I had sent it out by now, it wouldn't be in Germany. So I'm not overnighting it, Chuck.
No, no one's asking you to overnight it.
Tracking now.
Oh, tracking. Well, we need the track. It's going to Ibbenburen.
I will include an Intuit Dome rock in a Ziploc bag so it doesn't dirty up the shirt.
Ziploc bag. Clean apparel. That's what you can get here.
We do professional shipping here at Clips.
Professional shit. And then there's a YouTube contest for this video, correct? I believe we have another best comment contest over on at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. You comment on this video. We picked the best one. It was pretty unanimous last time. We are giving away the Mexican Heritage Night jersey from the Clippers. This thing is sick. Legit mesh, I believe. Adam, you're the only one who's touched it. So can you confirm?
Feels like it. I could read off of it. Oh, made in China.
Is that Planet
100% polyester.
100% polyester.
That's legit, right? We had some inquiries from some of our friends that were trying to get a hold of this jersey, but I don't think that would be fair after we already advertised best comment on YouTube.
Of course. Unless, hey, if they want to put a comment on there and it's the best one, you can have the jersey. It's that easy.
If this guy wants to get back on the internet, I'd encourage him to do so.
All right. I think that about wraps it up. We want to thank you to all the listeners, all the viewers as well. Will, where can these people, like, what do we need these people to do if they're maybe listening to this on a certain platform or appreciate it?
If you're listening to this, it'd be great if you could give us a rating or review. You can do that over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Get those Spotify numbers up. I feel like not enough people are leaving ratings and reviews over on Spotify. They do that now. You can also listen to this show wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Stitcher. We're on Deezer. All the usual suspects. However, if you listen to this show, you're only getting half the experience. I'm sorry. You're paying the same price, which is free. But you're only getting half the experience. So if you want to get the full experience, you got to follow us over on YouTube. That's youtube.com/ClippersPodcast. We're really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this month. If you could help us out, tell your friends. That'd be awesome. You can chop it up with us anytime over on Twitter. That's @ClippersPod. So thank you so much for listening.
And as soon as we get monetized on YouTube, all of that money is going to the Give No Quarters thing that we have going on, which we will have an update on the next pod. We'll figure out how many quarters.
They gave no quarter last night against Phoenix.
Hey, we saved a couple of coins.
This pod saved 75 cents.
Those charities are hurting now.
Oh, we have to pick a charity too. So if you throw of a charity, we should donate to. We're each gonna donate a quarter for every quarter the Clippers lose at the end of the season. Adam, would you like to send us out on some positive stuff?
Yeah.
Or negative?
As we have mentioned, this Clippers team is playing great basketball, and the response, as Chuck said earlier in the podcast, very encouraging. After losing that game to the Lakers, they looked upset about it post-game. They said, this is not the team we are. And then Coach Lue last night said it kind of woke us up. And you need games like that here and there. I know a lot of people are saying, if we just didn't lose this game earlier, if we just didn't lose that game earlier, we'd already be tied with the Denver Nuggets or the OKC Thunder. But the truth is, there is somewhat of that butterfly effect where those losses fueled wins later on because you learn from them. I don't know if they're at this point if they didn't lose to the Denver Nuggets the way they did against Reggie Jackson and DeAndre Jordan. It may be a blessing in disguise like some players on the Clippers already see it as. I think it's gotten their full attention. It made them adjust. It made them make tough decisions. And so sometimes I do feel like everything happens for a reason. I'm not always that guy that's looking at it glass half full, being the optimist or anything like that.
Oh, you?
Yeah, believe it or not. But when it comes to the Clippers so far this season, and I know a lot of people are saying, if we just got James Harden a little bit earlier. If they did, they probably would have had to give up Terrence Mann to do so. So thank goodness that didn't happen. Everything right now feels like intelligent design.
Man, hell yeah.
Sorry, I'm a Biola grad.
High praise. Let's go. Again, Adam, thank you for the positive send-off. We'll be back most likely Thursday, definitely Saturday, to talk the very important matchups against the Timberwolves and Thunder. We will talk to y'all then. We're going to have a double dip for you. We're on AM 570 with Adam after the game. Hope everyone has a great rest of your week. And as always, let's go Clips.